Hey Eric,
Hey, Graham. How's things?
very good. How you doing?
Very, very well. Excited about today. Recording our
Yep,
first video of our mini series. So, really cool.
we are indeed. So this is new for us, but it's an old subject. We'll do our best to share what we know. So what are we going to talk about?
So, today, basically, the main topic of today is what it actually means and what it's like to be financially free. And in this call, we'll probably, define it a little bit more what it
Yeah,
means for the both of us. I think it's important for everyone that's looking at this to get a bit of a better idea about who we are. So I think the main thing for today is we just explain to everyone who we are, what our background is, what we've done, and where we are, and also how we came to to writing a book and now being in this work whereby we help other people do what we did.
good. Sounds good.
Great, great, great.
So where are we going to start? Talk about who we are a little bit. Do you want to do a
Absolutely.
background first, or shall I go first?
Hey, why don't you go first?
Okay. So my name is Graham Brown. Thanks, Eric. So yes, my role is, I'm an author in this Lazy Money Machine project with Eric. Obviously, I've known Eric for some time. I'm a radio show host and an investor entrepreneur, and since 2012, so nearly 6 years now, 5.5, 6 years, I've been traveling the world with my family. So at the end of 2012, I exited a business, a telecoms business, and given the choice between starting another business or going and traveling the world, we decided, so me and my family decided that we were going to go and travel the world. So we traveled to New Zealand, Japan, California, Florida, Cyprus, Hawaii, Fiji, Canary Islands, just so I could do the Ironman triathlon there. And then back to Asia, lived in Okinawa out in the East China Sea for some time, and now here in Tokyo, Japan, where I'm talking to you right here, right now. So that's me, a little bit about me. Over to you, Eric.
Right. So I currently live in Indonesia. I have three children, and my wife's Indonesian. But that's the result of a life full of challenging choices in my life, I think. I started off, I'm from the Netherlands, and I started off doing my university there and worked for a telecoms company in the Netherlands who at some point sent me to Indonesia to work for an Indonesian telecoms company. And that was great. I was very young. I just came almost fresh out of university and being sent to a foreign country where I had never been. My first landing in Indonesia was my first day at work. And that was really exciting. And I decided to stay around. So I have adopted a life whereby I live in Indonesia. Like I mentioned, my family is from here. And the first 8 to 9 years, I worked as a professional in internet companies and telecommunication companies. And we had a very big company that was doing SMS value-added services. So we were doing things like horoscopes and ringtones, which was a really, really great business until at some point the regulation changed and I had to close that business. And it gave me a lot of headaches, a lot of problems, me and my business partners. And at that point, I decided, okay, building a big business in one country is fantastic, but it was a challenging period and it was very risky, it turned out, because if something changed in the regulation, and especially here in Indonesia, the regulation around this kind of businesses is still very fluid. So something changed and I had to stop it. And from one day to the other, I had to lay off my staff, I had to close office, and I was back to square one. And at that point, I really did some soul searching and I decided, okay, I think what I want to do, I had some money coming out of this, but I really want to go into property. And moreover, I wanted to go into property into a different country so that I could hedge my risks. I could mitigate my risks. So through training that I had in Singapore, I ended up in the UK, where Graham is from, coincidentally. And I ended up there and building a rental portfolio in the UK with a business partner I have there. And in parallel, I do sort of a similar kind of business here in Indonesia, where it's not a rental business here; it's a property development business. I buy old houses or old plots of land, and then I build new houses and I sell them here. And the interesting thing about this business is that it cost effort and time and headache to set it up. But once this is set up, this for me became a business where I don't have to spend that much time anymore to maintain it. Now, as a result, I had a lot of spare time. And when you have a lot of spare time, either you become very creative and you start generating, interesting things, or you become very depressed and worried about what you should do with your life. I knew both phases. I had both phases in my life. I've struggled with both of these things. But this project that we're now doing together is really one of these things that gets me really passionate, and I want to deliver materials and knowledge and insights that help other people do what we did. And I'm really excited about it. I'm very grateful that I found Graham. We're both very complementary to what we do. I really enjoy this process together, and I hope we can help as many people as possible do the same.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've learned from this process, and what we're kind of trying to teach here, is that we've both been entrepreneurs and we've both had reasonably successful businesses. And I think that we've grown up, if you like, with that idea that business is the key to financial freedom long term, right? We've had that in our head because we saw that as the way of becoming financially free. It's not the only way, but it's one way, and it's one that worked for us as more entrepreneurial minded people. However, what we realized with age, wisdom, and a few mistakes along the way, which is all part of the process, we've learned
many mistakes.
Well, yes, many mistakes along the way. We've learned that actually businesses don't make you rich or financially free. Assets do.
That's right.
That's really what we want to teach. I guess if there's one lesson when it becomes, when you look at what we're doing and what we're trying to teach here, financial freedom, it's all about owning assets, because it's all about owning assets that make money whilst you sleep, create
right.
passive income. That's the key to financial freedom, because so many people think that they can become financially free for building a business. And that does happen. But the numbers of people who actually sell a business and sell a business on their terms is very, very small, right? We're talking, single figure percentages of all the entrepreneurs who start a business. So what we want to teach here is that, rather than gamble, and it's a gamble, throw a dice on your life, because building a business is not 1 or 2 years, it's 10 years of your life. And many people start many businesses in their life. This could be 20 years. It could be your whole career. Don't throw a dice on your future. Build assets. And that's what we want to teach. That's the key to financial freedom. And it's so simple, really, once you realize that and let go of the idea that business is the key. Yeah, business helps. It helps generate income. But, the more guaranteed way, and I use guaranteed very carefully, because obviously we're in the business of risk here. So things can go up and down. But the best chance that you have is to build assets. And the best assets that we know personally is property. It's not the only asset, but that's what we know very well.
Right. And I think this comes down to we both have been in businesses. I mean, I had since 2005 to 2011, I had various businesses here in Indonesia. And you could consider them assets, but look at what happened to me. A flip of the coin in the regulation side and in the government side. And the assets that I build up, or the business that I build up, all of a sudden was worth zero. And that can happen to many industries. It could theoretically happen to the property business as well. But that business has been around for such a long time, and regulation in that area and in different countries around how you're allowed to own property, how you're allowed to operate them, how you're allowed to rent them. There's a lot of rules, regulations, and jurisprudence around that, whereby that you're in. I always say that you're playing a board game whereby the rules have been around for a long time, and the rules of the game might change, but they won't change drastically. Well, if you're in a business, and especially a lot of my friends and people I know are in startup and in tech is brand new greenfield area. So if you dive into areas like virtual reality, Bitcoin, these things are great and they're very promising, but we have to realize they're greenfield. So rules of the game will come in and they could massively disrupt your business overnight. I'm not discouraging you to go into these areas. I think they're fantastic. I think there's a lot of excitement around that. But what we would like to do is for the average person that wants to have some form of passive income, I think it's much better to go into a game and play on a board and play, a game whereby we know that these rules have been around for a while. And that's what we're trying to talk about.
Sure. I guess the thing is, and you know this as well, Eric, that property isn't the most exciting business in the world. That's why, it's easy to go and chase something like Bitcoin. And by the way, Bitcoin startups, something I'm personally involved in as well. So it's not like you're in one or the other.
That's right.
I'm building my future on property.
Yes.
So it's not the most exciting business in the world, which is actually a good thing. But what's really exciting is the lifestyle it enables. That's what you're doing it for. You're not doing it because property is necessarily a business that you can focus on all your waking hours and get really excited about. It's the lifestyle it enables. So let's talk a little bit about the lifestyle. Why do this? Okay, what's the upside? Because we're not the kind of guys that you'll see driving around in a Lamborghini. So
I would love to, but I can't get through traffic here in Jakarta. So
it's a waste of time, right? And you're going to get
really
dinged on either side driving around Jakarta, right?
Right.
The point is, though, that's not why we're doing it. We're doing it for something else. So let's talk a little bit about the lifestyle that property enables, or anything that you can create passive income whilst you sleep enables, right? What's it about? Tell us a little bit about the lifestyle. Over to you, Eric. Give us a flavor, a short summary of what the lifestyle is like that people may not see because they only think of it in terms of money, right?
Yes. And I think it's a very good point you brought up. I mean, I don't consider myself living a millionaire lifestyle with a big mansion and, plenty of cars. Because over time and over getting wiser, I guess, and getting older, I realized that those toys and those things are, great aspirational, shiny objects. But in the end, for me, they don't bring me happiness. And my lifestyle now is a bit as follows. I try to spend enough time staying fit. For me, it's very important to stay and have time with my children. They're 13, 12, and 9. They're in an age where, I hope that I can be of influence to their lives. And time spent with them means spending more time at home. So that was the other thing that I concluded is I want to have a life whereby I live at home and I can work from home as well. So I have an office at my house. That's where, this is being recorded. And my life is, okay, I wake up, I do my exercises, I sometimes drop the kids to school. Then I work in my home office on projects that, inspire me. And that comes with a difficulty. The difficulty is you need to need to set my own agenda. I need to set my own goals of what I'm doing. So I'm working on this project with Graham. I'm spending time on my UK business by speaking to my business partner in the UK. I'm usually spending time on my Indonesian property business by going around and chasing new plots of land that I need to develop. I speak to investors. So I do work during the day, but all these working hours are planned into building the assets that I have. And I usually stop at around 5 o'clock and then spend 2-3 hours dinner time when the kids are back and the family is back. And it's a lifestyle whereby I can work a lot of hours if I want to, but I can also choose to scale it down if I need to. And that flexibility and the freedom to ultimately be the boss of my own time, that's my key value in life. I want to be the boss of my own time. I do not want to be working for somebody else for 40 hours a week, because that 40 hours in this city means 60 hours because I need to go back and forth to the office. And that's not my agenda. So even though this life is not easy always financially, there are ups and downs, but it is a place whereby I feel like all the time spent is spent on my assets and on my life and on my projects. And that gives me a lot of fulfillment and a lot of excitement. And that's where I like to be. And, I love to travel like Graham. One of the main things I did last year was I took my children out of school. As I mentioned, they're in an age where they do need to be in school. They do need to learn. But we took them out of school for 6 months, and we went to Europe for 3 months, and we went to the US for 3 months, and we homeschooled them for a long period of time. That is a result of choices, and choices of doing things that maybe other people are not able to. So my time is not spent in gathering shiny objects. My time is spent in building as much experiences as I can, as valuable experiences as I can with my loved ones and with with new people, with other people, and that's what I really really enjoy.
Yeah, that's what it's all about, isn't it? Choice and financial freedom. Really, if you had to define it, it's having choice to do what you want, where you want, when you want, with who you want. That's what it is. It's very simple. But I think that what this is about, or what we're trying to do, is we're trying to give confidence to people that that is the right goal to chase, rather than chasing the Lamborghini or chasing a bigger job title, a better salary, and so on. Because that is the goal that's going to give you more happiness. Financial freedom, choice. Like Eric, many of you will probably realize as you get older that things like health and family are things which often get pushed aside when you're building your career and so on. So to have the choice to be able to invest time in those, because you'll never get it back, right? That's the thing. These things, no matter how much money you have later on in life or success, you'll never get that time back with your health or your family. So investing in that time now. And what we want to do is share the idea as well that you don't need a lot of money to do that. We talk about the financial freedom figure, or the freedom from fear figure, really, which is the 50,000 mark. We'll talk about that in a later video. We talk about it in the book as well, which is really, if you can get to $50,000 in passive income, effectively you free up, most people, you free up fear on a daily basis of having enough money to keep the whole show going, right? And that gives you the kind of ability to have choice. Like Eric says, the things that you can do, you can't really do those if you're worried about paying off car loans or paying off a big mortgage and so on. So it is actually, financial freedom isn't having an amount of money in the bank. It's having an amount of passive income on a regular basis, and enough to be free of fear. That's the key here. And the important thing here is what we want to get across. It's closer than you think. It's not like winning the lottery. It's not a throw of the dice. This is something that you can build towards and have definable goals, that 50,000 figure. And that's what everybody in our tribe will be working towards. And that's the journey that we want to share.
Can you tell a little bit about how you fill your days, Graham? What since you have this time freedom as I do, what does your life look like?
Well, I'm busy. So, even though I consider myself financially free, I don't sit around, because that's not my default nature. I like doing stuff, creating stuff. Like you say, Eric, I spend a lot of time making time for health and family. So health is important for me. I work out every day. I train for triathlons. That's my big thing. That's my passion, which anybody who's done that knows that that's kind of like a full-time job anyway. So if you're training for an Ironman race, that's 20, 25 hours a week, right? So you can't do that in normal situations. But that's a choice. I enjoy doing that, and it's hard work, but I love the challenge. So that's one thing I do.
So what comes out? I want to know a little bit more. What comes out on the other end of that immense effort to get that fit and to be able to do an Ironman? What is the input? Is all the time and the effort on the training side. What's the output? What do you get from that? Why is that so important to you?
There's two things really. One is the sense of growth. I like the idea that I'm growing as an individual in different ways, because to do an Ironman, as an example, which is a 12-hour race, you don't have to get fitter. You have to change the way you think about so many things. Like, for example, your attitude to food, your attitude towards sleep and rest and everything, and focus on more of the things which are good for you in your life, and you have to cut out things and so on which aren't so good for you. So that's one thing you get out, that whole growth, that whole evolving, I suppose,
right,
personality, and you're kind of having to find a better you inside you. And then secondly, completing an Ironman triathlon, crossing the finish line when they say you are an Ironman, you're a part of an elite club, really. Right. And that's something they can never take away from you. I've done that. I've completed it now. I've got the medal. I've got the memory. The medal right here behind me.
I see them, yeah.
So for me, it's like that will never go away. And I always remember And this is the thing that I suppose it's for anybody in life, is that I'll always remember the first time I ever did a triathlon was a sprint triathlon, which is like an hour and a half race. So it's like
Right.
1/10 of what I completed in the Ironman. I thought before I did that race, I can never do this. This is such a big effort. But then when you complete that, you realize that to get right up there to Ironman, you know, isn't impossible. And the whole motto, it says on the medal behind me on the lanyard, it says nothing is impossible.
Right.
So that's what it teaches you, because you then realize with a program, you know, with a formula, and it really is just formula. Follow the training formula, follow the steps, measure your numbers. And this is so similar to what we do in property as well. You know, if you have a formula, you surround yourself with the right people, you can measure yourself on a regular basis with numbers, you can get there. Anything is possible.
Right. Awesome. And your family, the family side of your life, how does that look like? How do you spend time with them, and why is that so important to you?
Well, so I have a full small family, my wife and my son. My son's now 11 years old. I see them every day, apart from when I'm traveling. But when I'm at home, I see them every day because I work here at home. I choose to see them. So, you know, I think that's an important thing because, you know, I'm not coming home at like a lot of people and people I know from my peer group, people coming home late at night, kids are in bed, they're out catching the train before the kids wake up or go to school, or they just have a very short amount of time with them. And before they know it, their kids are 18, you know,
Yes.
and they're off going to university. So what happens? And that's kind of always in my mind. That's why I want to be there every day, and that's so important to me. And it's just small things as well. You don't have to, you know, you don't have to have a huge family travel or a huge family party or some big event or whatever. It's just the small things, being with family, like eating together at the dinner table. For me, that's a sign of success. I mean, people think, well, come on, but how many families actually do that today?
Yeah. Now, like you, I do it almost on a daily basis, and I love it. And especially now, since the kids are in middle school, they become teenagers. It's like now it becomes like the beacon of the day where, you know, my kids eat very slow, which is good because we have a lot of time. And then that's really the time where now they have time to open up. You know, we have no gadget rule during dinner, so they can't touch
Really?
their phones. I can't touch my phone, right? It's completely,
Good for you.
we're completely disconnected and sitting and having dinner there. And it seems simple, but the longer I do it, the more it becomes such a super important part of my life. And I will do anything to try to avoid having dinner appointments and being at home during
Right.
that time. If
That's
I
a
miss
choice,
it, I
though,
usually, I really feel different the day. If I go to bed, not having been at dinner for the day, I feel different going to bed because my kids are asleep and I'm coming home. My wife half wakes up when I arrive, and it's a different day, and I miss it. And it's really important to me as well. I love that.
Small things and being
Small.
present in that moment. That's what choice gives you, isn't it? Because if you're, you know, if you're so stressed about paying the bills, you know, you feel compelled to stay a bit longer in the office. You miss that moment. You know, the fear takes it away from you. Right? That's effectively what it does. But you know,
Right.
to have financial freedom really is to be able to be in the moment and be completely committed to that moment right there, right then, with the people who really matter, right? And these are things which, you know, in this modern age, people strive for internal peace and people do like meditation and yoga and stuff like that. But it's these simple things, isn't it, that you can do in your life and sit with people and just be there for them, present. If you're always checking your device, always worried about something, always on the phone because you're so busy doing stuff, like you can't have that kind of environment at home.
Yeah, that's right. So that's fantastic. That's a little bit about, you know, how we live our lives. For you, was this a conscious choice to build your life like this?
That's a really good decision. I mean, a really good question. I think it probably was, but maybe that's kind of with hindsight that it was, you know, I'm kind of giving myself more credit. I always knew that it was something that I wanted, but I think really you have the answer, I guess, the long answer to this is that you have to consciously decide what you don't want in your life. I think that's the way you go about it, right? That's kind of what's happened with me, especially. I don't want these things in my life. I don't want to be eternally busy. I don't want to walk into an office and then be told that I don't have a job anymore and I can't pay the bills. I don't ever want to struggle financially. All these things, I've consciously decided that, and this is what, I've created as a result of that. But I think you have to consciously decide you do want something or not want something to make it happen.
Yeah, maybe that's something we can talk about at some other point. But I went through, after I stopped my businesses, after I lost my big business in 2011, the first reaction I had was to go and build another business.
Right.
Not go into this lifestyle that I have now, whereby I'm creating assets from home that are making me money. I decided to go and build another business, and I've been struggling for 2011 till beginning of this year. So it's about 6 years that I went into the same routine again of building companies. I had an office, I had a team, I had co-shareholders, I had investors. So I came from this hustle lifestyle whereby we were building companies, and I went back into building companies to the point where, especially, and I think the big turning point for me came when I left for 6 months last year.
Right.
And you and I have been speaking about some issues I had during that period, and that really flipped the switch of what I don't want to do. And I decided, look, this is not how I want it. I want to build a business. I want to build an income stream. But I don't think I want to do that anymore in an office business kind of setting. So I think, like by eliminating certain things, and those choices are hard. I mean, the decision to not do something comes with the, oh my God, am I missing out on something? Am I going to lose money when I do this? Am I going to ever, generate enough income to survive again? The decision to not do certain things comes with a lot of mental burden of insecurity and of, should I actually do this or not? But I think for me too, the life that I have now happened partly by choice, but also a lot of these choices were a negative choice. I don't want to do the other part anymore, and therefore I'm now in this situation that I'm in right now. It might change again in the future. And one of the big aspects is, and we'll talk about that at some other point too, is the social aspect, right? If you're where we are, you consciously need to generate interaction with other people again, because otherwise you get very lonely. And that's a downside of having this kind of lifestyle, but there's a lot of upside. And I think, for me, it was also something where I rolled into this a lot by eliminating a lot. And so far I'm very happy with it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of a point we want to end on, really, isn't it? That the point about surrounding yourself with the right people is so important for becoming financially free. I think everybody wants it, but one of the biggest sticking points are the people you hang around with.
Yeah.
And it comes to the question, why do we do this? Is we wanted to create a tribe, a network of people who share similar kind of outlooks in their life and support each other, because that is so fundamentally important for the outcome. Whether you do become financially free or not has a big, the bearing comes from who you hang around with, and they will determine whether or not you become financially free. And, you can want to become financially free, but surrounded by people who live a quote unquote normal life. And Absolutely. That will be very hard for you. Surround yourself with people who are working towards financial freedom, and that will become the default. It becomes so much easier for you, not just in terms of motivation, but in terms of what you think is normal for you, what you expect of yourself. When you surround yourself with people doing this, then that becomes part of your own story as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why we started this. That's why we wrote the book. That's why we're starting this Lazy Money Machine movement and this tribe. You can do this on your own. You can, if you have access to people that, you can go to and help you grow. That's fantastic. We just decided, look, we want to just build a group of people that are like us or want to be like us or want to grow with us. And we're just really looking forward to having more and more people in our group and in our circles. And we really enjoy that. So I think with that, this is a little bit about Graham and myself. This introduction into who we are. There'll be more videos coming. Keep an eye out for them, and we'll see you in the next video.